In a quiet Texas town near the border, something unthinkable happened in 1981. Three identical triplet boys vanished, without a single trace. One moment, they were laughing in their front yard. The next, they were gone. No witnesses, no evidence, no answers. For 30 years, the case went cold, until one day, their mother noticed something hidden in an old photograph. Something so small, yet so disturbing, it would unravel everything. The afternoon sun settled warmly over a quiet neighborhood outside Laredo, Texas. It was a typical Saturday, bright, familiar, and filled with life. In the Rodriguez family's backyard, children laughed and ran between tables covered in snacks and decorations. Balloons swayed gently in the breeze. It was an 8th birthday party. Near the garden fence stood Evie Marlowe. At 60 years old, she carried herself with quiet grace, but beneath it was a grief that had never faded. Her eyes still searching, always searching. For 30 years. Nearby, her husband Walter stood at the grill, chatting casually. He had learned how to live with the pain even if he never escaped it. Evie nodded politely at a neighbor, barely listening, until something caught her attention. A man she didn't recognize had just entered the yard, holding the hand of a young boy. The boy broke free and ran toward the other children. And as he passed her, Evie froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The boy was wearing green checkered overalls with bright yellow straps, exactly like the ones her sons wore the day they disappeared. Same pattern, same colors, same design. Time seemed to bend. Without thinking, Evie stepped forward and gently grabbed the boy's shoulder. "Where did you get those clothes?" she whispered. The boy panicked and ran back to his father. "She scared me." The man stepped in quickly, protective and confused. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" Evie couldn't answer. She just stared at the overalls. Walter rushed over. Sensing the tension, he spoke calmly, apologizing, explaining. "Our sons wore outfits just like that. They were triplets. They disappeared in 1981. The yard fell silent. The father's expression softened. "I'm sorry. I had no idea." Back home, the silence felt heavier. Evie sat on the couch, trembling. "I saw them," she whispered. "I saw our boys again." Walter gently reassured her, but even he couldn't deny it. The resemblance had shaken him too. "I want to see the photos," she said suddenly. The ones they hadn't opened in decades. Minutes later, a dusty box sat on the coffee table. Inside, tiny shoes, old toys, faded drawings, fragments of a life that stopped too soon. At the bottom, the photo album. Walter opened it carefully. Page after page revealed memories frozen in time. 3 boys growing up together, perfectly in sync. Then they found it. The photo, taken the morning they disappeared. 3 boys standing side by side, wearing green overalls with yellow straps. Smiling. Alive. Evie leaned closer. Something wasn't right. "The clothes aren't exactly the same," she said. "Similar, but different." Walter nodded. It wasn't a match, but still, something felt off. Then suddenly, Evie leaned forward sharply. "Wait, look at the background." Behind the boys, barely visible, was a car. A deep reddish Cadillac. Walter squinted. That's Howard Fielding's car. Their son's former teacher. A man everyone trusted, but something didn't make sense. Howard had already left town before that photo was taken. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. So, why was his car there? On the very day the boys disappeared? Later, Evie made a phone call to an old friend from the school district. What she heard changed everything. Howard Fielding never transferred to another school. He simply vanished from the system. Instead, he started a remote farm, a place for children. The website looked harmless. Photos of smiling kids, fields, animals, a safe place. Or so it seemed. But Evie couldn't shake the feeling. Something wasn't right. That same day, she and Walter drove out to the farm. It was quiet. Too quiet. A young man greeted them, friendly, polite. And as Evie looked at him, her heart skipped. His curly hair, his smile. Something about him felt familiar. Inside one of the barns, Evie noticed a piece of artwork. A red Cadillac. Carefully crafted. Detailed. That was Howard's car, she said quietly. The man smiled. Yes, he still drives it. Evie studied his face again. The resemblance. The feeling. The memory. Do you have siblings? She asked. Yes, he said casually. My brother's at the fair today. At the county fair. Everything was loud, colorful, alive. But Evie wasn't there for the sights. She was searching. Then she saw him. Howard Fielding. Alive. Smiling. Unchanged. They approached him. Showed him the photograph. Asked about the Cadillac. His reaction was subtle, but wrong. Too controlled. Too careful. Moments later, Evie overheard him speaking urgently on the phone. Leave immediately. Bring him now. That's when she knew something was very, very wrong. Soon after, they saw another man, identical to the one from the farm. Same face. Same smile. Twins? No. Triplets. Triplets. Same age. Same features. Evie's voice trembled. Walter, could they be our boys? They didn't take chances. They called the police and waited. Back at the farm, officers surrounded the property. Howard tried to leave, but it was too late. Evie stepped forward, holding the photograph. These are my sons, she said. And those are them. Howard broke. He admitted everything. He had taken them, raised them as his own, built a lie that lasted 30 years. Inside the property, investigators found fake identities, hidden records, and the same Cadillac from the photo. At the station, 3 men walked into the room. Grown. Changed. But unmistakable. Lucas. Noah. Gabriel. For a moment, no one moved. Then, they embraced. 30 years of silence, broken in a single moment. A family, torn apart by lies, finally reunited. Not healed, not yet, but together. And for the first time in decades, that was enough.